Okay, 1724, good luck. So we've not played before. Only 120 games for opponent. And yeah, not many games at all for an account that's nearly a year old. 147 games. Okay, all we can do is hope that we get an honest opponent playing fairly. That's all you can ask for. But yeah, I'm going to be winding down the rapid games now. There's too big a problem with fair play issues. It's just not worth the hassle. Okay, against e6 you generally do g3 and c6, b3, just as a general guide in the reti. But as soon as you do this, you are threatening to take and then protect your pawn. Whereas now we do have check and collect. But we're just trying to castle and then worry about what to do. Okay, bishop up, so we will castle. Again, if he castles now, we no longer have a check to collect, so the pawn is threatening to be lost. So I'm now going to go b3 and guard and put the bishop on the diagonal. Okay, knight up, so develop the bishop. And now we just have to decide, how do we challenge the center? Now that gives us a chance to take and break the pawn structure. I quite like the look of that, so I'm going to do that. Now knight up I think is a decent move here. Try and challenge this knight, or we can just go straight to the center. I might get my bishop trapped here, actually might if I do that immediately. So let's play d4 first with a view to playing e3. Some lines in these reti openings, you get this annoying bishop once you've played e3 hitting the rook, and the other bishop can sometimes get in. So it's a little bit dangerous, got to be careful. But the main thing is we've got out the opening, we've both got a playable position, so we now worry about what to do. So here, I think I'll probably take with a knight and maybe jump the other knight across. There's no immediate danger. The bishop could get here at some point, but we do have e3 in reserve. If this knight moves with a view to bishop coming up. Otherwise, I'll try and maybe jump the knight across and then worry about what to do with this one. Like f5 would be nice to try and challenge this, so he does move out the way to deal with that. So I'm just going to develop my knight. I don't see any point going here to try and hit the pawn immediately. No real way to get that, it's well protected. But we've got a flexible position now. Knight across, knight back. Then maybe just pawn pushing across at some point in time. Not in this position, but at some point. Okay, so he's played down with his bishop. So knight across is still a very natural move here. We can then go up and hit this bishop. This knight guards the pawn. So I'm just going to play that. Try to not burn too much time. But actually my opponent's probably playing at a better speed than we are here. We've probably gone a little bit too quick here. Tad bit too quick, but I like knight forward here just to attack this bishop and see where you're going to go. If you go back, maybe we can come up and hit the rook. There's no immediate danger, is there? So let's go up and just try and annoy this bishop and see which diagonal you want to keep it on. If back here, very natural, we could go here and hit the rook and then see where the rook's going to go. Excuse me. Down, maybe we can jump, we'll just try and figure something out. But these squares are all covered, so we'd have the option to trade a knight for the bishop if you don't go here. Here, maybe we can come in and hit this bishop and trade a knight for the other bishop. So that looks an option if he goes this way. But yeah, all you're trying to do in the opening is get your king safe and get a playable position, and that's basically it. So he's come across allowing this, and then we can come across and hit the bishop and the pawn. I think he might be lucky, or is he? Because he can come here and block at the end. The knight guards, so if we kick the knight first, he'll go back. But we're going to get rid of that bishop. So we've got bishop here to create a pin, or we've got knight across to hit the pawn and the bishop. But the bishop can blockade because the knight would cover. So why is he thinking? Yeah, he's only got the one move. Bishop up creates an annoying pin here. If you move the knight anywhere, we can win an exchange. You don't really want to play f5 or h5 in this position, so that could be quite a nice move. That's why, just because it weakens the king's defenses in quite a bold way. Now it could turn out to be a good move, of course. The advance though, we could take your take. But knight up, we hit the pawn, we hit the bishop, but you can blockade. So takes, knight takes, and I don't see any follow-up. This pawn is still guarded. So I like bishop up. So I'm going to risk it. I'm going to risk it. He might get balled here. He might do. Let's just see how he does it. We can always play e3, for instance, and then double attack the knight. And if the knight moves, then we win the exchange. You don't really want to guard the knight with a queen if you can help it. I mean, maybe you can do that, but you don't really want to do that. He might do it though, let's just see. But e3 and we create a double attack. Let's just see how he plays it and then worry about it. So it's good that he's thinking a long time. So he hadn't seen this, so he just figured out what to do. But you can see if the knight moves at all, we can take the rook with the bishop. f5 and h5 are both dangerous. They could turn out to be really good attacking moves. Of course they could, but I mean, like f5, maybe we can just simply take, rook takes and takes, and we've won a pawn and we've still created a double attack on the rooks. h5, you're weakening your king's defenses. It might prove to be the best of a bad bunch. We can still play e3 and double attack the knight as well. And again, if you move, we still win the exchange. And queen down is the other move. We can still play up now. Again, if the knight moves, we win the exchange. So he has indeed played h5. So I think, do we want to go forward here now? But can we do this threat now? And if the bishop comes in, we take, you take. But our knight is blocking the check. We don't have a really good, useful discovery, do we? So I'm looking at e3 for the double attack again. Yeah. I don't see anything better, so I'm going to double attack and threaten to win the knight and pawn for the bishop. Again, if queen comes down, we could attack the queen. Maybe you've got a square, maybe you're just fine. And then at some point, we need our queen moving somewhere, or connect the rooks up, complete our development. Same for our opponent. I mean, he might do it this move. And then try and get the rooks into the game, try and get them a little bit more centralized at the right moment, and obviously think about our own king's safety. Yeah, but it's good for me that he's thinking for a long time, because it means he didn't see this initial line coming. Not easy to find a solution. Where queen up, he has indeed gone for that. Very bold move. Very bold move. So, candidate move, we could simply take and allow the pawn across. Queen across we trade, but it simplifies the position. So, a knight back, we attack the queen. The idea of the queen is to guard your knight. But we create a natural blockage here, don't we? So we're no longer threatening to take the next move. Now we could risk f3, but you lose a pawn with a check, so that doesn't seem very clever. f3 loses a pawn with a check, so I don't like the look of that. We could just play a slow, steady move. Knight across to hit the bishop. Bishop in. Bishop in actually wouldn't be a move. We hit the bishop and the pawn. If you go this way, maybe we've got queen up to create a threat in here as well. Just it's putting everything slightly offside. f4 is a move, but then you take away the chance to play f3 and the knight could get jumpy. I'm looking at even a move like queen up here, just so I can push up, but I'm still not protected, am I? So I think I'm going to switch tack. I'm going to go here, hit the bishop. I think he needs to go back to guard his pawn. If you come in, we can still take. Queen takes, we can take the knight. Then takes, we take back. The rooks guard each other. So that wins a pawn. So I think he'll go back and guard. He's come the other way, so we can take and get a tempo attacking the rook. And then just come back to where we are, I guess. But he might get development now. But it feels like a good move. Is he looking at sacking? So if he takes here, I think we would just simply take the knight. Lose a pawn, gain a knight. If lose a pawn, we just take back. Yeah. So if we take, the knight could get jumpy. We could just simply take the knight and lose a knight, right? Or do we go a bit more sensible, solid? I'm not sure. I'm just going to drop the knight back there. Probably fine to take, but he could have gotten jumpy there, attacking the knight. It could create complications. I'm well up on the clock. Got to play the clock as well as the position. Little bit of danger there, although I think taking the knight would be fine, but a little bit of danger. I don't think he'll give up his bishop for the knight. I don't think he'll do that. He could just go back to where he was. Then maybe we can just activate a rook or something. So he's played knight around. Okay. So he's created a natural blockage now. But now this pawn could be loose. Knight back and we attack the pawn. Yeah, I like the look of that. Hit the queen, hit the pawn. Now do you try and guard the knight here and the pawn? If you go here, maybe the knight can switch to the side. Maybe the queen comes in the middle, then we can maybe just drop back. He's got to be careful not to go on the dark square with the scope of the bishop there. But now the pawn's loose now that the knight's moved. We're just manoeuvring, trying to create some opportunities. Yeah, the queen's gone back, so we can take now. But is it a disaster in waiting? Is that actually a good pawn to be left to stop the opponent's rooks getting active? If we take knight here, it's actually dangerous, isn't it? Yeah, I'm going to ignore it. I'm going to ignore it. Actually, let's not pre-move. If I take that pawn too quickly, my opponent could get an awful lot of activity. I'm up on the clock. I'm doing pretty well, so I'm going to go steady with this one. So let's develop the queen, threaten to win the pawn here and the pawn here. We've got to be careful, though. Got to be still careful, but it feels like a good position. Okay, so he's played knight across, so we can grab this pawn now, or we can ignore it again. But it feels like a safe pawn to take now. It feels like a lot less risk now. And then we hit another pawn. We may just come back exactly where we were. Sensible, solid defense. Try and just strangle the position. I don't want to give up this bishop from one knight to replace with another. The queen might eventually get in. Could be dangerous. So I'm just looking at queen back here. That's my next candidate move. But there is a pawn loose, depending on what our opponent does. If he sees any good attacking moves, like rook c2 might be a move. Then we might need to deal with that. What's he done? He's moved his queen. So, do we go after a pawn? Again, the pawn is still a pawn, but it feels like I've got a good sensible position here, and I don't want to blow it. So if I come back, I'm threatening a move like knight up. Right now we can take here. If I take, yeah, I don't like that. I'm going to drop back. Just going to drop back there. See, I'm trying to play the clock as well as the position. I could be playing someone who's like a naturally really quick player, so maybe he can rattle off an awful lot of moves later in the game. So just slow, steady, does it is what I'm trying to do. I might play the rooks across. Maybe I'll just start marching these pawns down the board, but he's got a move like rook across. Oh, he's happy to trade. Happy to trade. Okay, my knight is loose here, so I've got to be careful, but bishop back could be good now. And take with a knight. I think that looks nice. It takes a lot of the risk out for both of us, to be fair, so it makes the endgame a bit easy to play. But so our opponent, if he's a really good endgame player, it could make it more difficult to convert, but we're still doing well. If he takes, I'm going to take with a knight. You can see I've done a pre-move. It's a different coloured square. So we're going to try and put pressure on this pawn. Now maybe kick this knight out, but the knight's not as effective now. Rook down is now covered for a move, so maybe we just start marching our pawns and hope for the best. But here, as he just blundered pawn up, okay, we can play f3 and hit 2 pieces. Knight in, we just take, right? I think that's a blunder. If knight down, we just take the knight, take and take back. 2 pieces for a rook and a pawn is normally good. Well, same effect. I assume he'll take the rook and then we'll take the pawn. I've just got to be really careful. I don't want to lose one of these extra pieces. I assume he'll take. No reason not to, is there? Unless he can activate his rook. But let's just take back. No, I've just got to try and get these on safe squares, like bishop here maybe with pawn up, get the knight across. Well, that gives me actually a naturally safe move that I wanted. Pawn for pawn again. We don't want that. We want to try and keep the 2 if we can, and maybe put the bishop on a protected square. Then worry about the knight and hope he doesn't get both rooks doubling down on the king. Put pressure on f7. Yeah, we should be good here. Doesn't mean we can't mess it up, but it should be good. So he's guarded his pawn. So now I'm going to play... Well, I've got to be careful actually. If I come across, he attacks 2 pieces. So maybe knight across first. Yeah, let's get the knight out of the way first. Threaten a check, threaten the bishop up. Again, if the rook is here, he could come forward. So he's launched one. Okay, so what do we do here? I don't really want to take, but if I push forward, it's on a dark square. But he doesn't have rook across, so I'm going to gamble. If down, I still want to go here if I can. If rook down, we could throw a check in and then move the bishop, or maybe grab the pawn. But he's down to 20 seconds, so I just need to not blunder the game away. Okay, so now I've got a natural square here. If forward, the rook guards my knight, I can just move my bishop. Takes, takes, and there's no actual good discovery. So here, not quite. I don't want to be too passive though. Let's go forward and actually attack the rook and see where it goes. Okay, so he's come forward, so knight back might be a move. Bishop back might be a move. If here, I still don't see it. If I go here, he's got rook down, hasn't he? I know he's low on time, but I still want to try and figure things out. Knight into the center attacks the rook. Rook across attacks them both. So here down, but my knight's still guarded. So where does my bishop go? Let's just do it. Let's just do it. Using up some valuable time. Now I could take here, but there's no good discovery check. So I'm just going to come all the way back. But the danger now is he might get the rooks quickly down and double up, and that's a little bit of danger, although I've got knight across now. I'll do our run here. If he comes down, I think we're fine. I think we push the pawn. Yeah, he's out of time. He's out of time, and that's the rook. That's the rook. Unlucky. It was just really down to the clock. He held on very, very well, didn't he? So let's just pause there and see how we played it in engine language. So 37 moves. They're the move times for both players. Yeah, so we have messed up a little bit here. We've been better, plus 3.4, come back to 1.6, 1.7. Been better the whole way through, but it's actually come back to level on move 22. I haven't been plus 3. So what did we do? 90% versus 84%. So lots of ups and downs without any actual bad blunders, so that was good. But just take a very quick flick through. But in the opening, we're just trying to get castled, challenge for the center, get a playable position, and then worry about the rest of the game. So here, knight forward is the correct move early on, just get advancing. But this is all alright. You know, we're plus 3 here, so it was okay to take. Bishop was okay. But yeah, I should have actually taken here. And this structure was actually good for us instead of e3. So the queen up was alright. And I should have come back here to hit the queen instead of going out wide. So I should have challenged the queen immediately then. And then it was okay to take the pawn instead of coming back. So a few mistakes here and there. So then we did come back and hit the queen. Should have come across and walked into the pin. Okay. Then we should have taken the pawn and not worried about activating the rook. So the few times I turned down pawns, didn't I? But no, in engine language, I should have taken it. So that's why we've come just about back to level now. Yeah, in this position, when we did take the pawn, it was actually not flagged as a mistake, but it is just a completely level position now. So that was a blunder. We've come back. Should have been knighted instead of queening, and we're suddenly 2.5 better again. So the trade was okay for us. Now here, knight f5 was better than f3, so f3 might have been a mistake. It was. So we're still 1.7 better, and this is about the worst that we were for the rest of the game. So we did convert pretty well. Then at the end, he's just blundered there, but obviously practically no time, 0.1 of a second. So not a bad effort, was it, considering the rating gap there, but we managed to get a win, so very good.